Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, and let's talk about what happened today on a pretty wild day in the market and what we can expect moving into the rest of the week, tomorrow or next week, etc. So with that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy the video, don't forget to hit that like button. It does help a lot. I would appreciate it. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership is live. That link is down below. For just $3 a month, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, posts, updates. I was sharing with my members this breakdown actually towards, throughout the whole day. Pretty much you can see I'm constantly sharing updates on the breakdown, how it broke down, how I came up to retest that, and then essentially, potentially going back in. But I'm like, let's see if we can close the 1 hour candle back with independent. Obviously, we couldn't. You can pretty much see it almost like a stop frame movie, if you will, and we continue breaking down. So anyway, that's kind of stuff I usually try to share if I can, of course, my members, whenever possible, whenever it seems to be like it's the case to do so. Just $3 a month, link below. But jumping into it, Tesla closing the day down about 3.14%, closing at $248.50, which compared to the market though, decent. Held up decently, honestly, held up very decently considering QQQ was down a whopping 3% on QQQ. It's a pretty substantial drawdown on a major index like this, closing at pretty much the lows of the day as well, showing pretty much no sign of, buying back, if you will, at all. Like it's just complete and utter just chaos over here. Just on very elevated volume too. So very, very spooky stuff here. But I've been talking about it a while how I think the market's pretty overextended. But now, after this little drawdown, the market has officially, it's not really as overextended anymore. This is a pretty nice little drawdown to kind of reset the market a bit, in terms of just the euphoria. Now, granted, this could still not be the end of the downturn, but this makes things a little bit less scary, like it was all the way up here, for instance, when we were just very, very overbought. Now let's talk about Tesla specifically though. So Tesla is a very interesting one here. Now, like I said yesterday, as long as we're pretty much below 260, I can still see, a move down to about 230s, 220s, right? I could still see that being a real possibility. And that's exactly, it's not really what's happening right now, but it's kind of approaching that specific scenario. Now, with that being said, there is a caveat here. There's a pretty big caveat here, right? The way I look at it is pretty simple. So throughout the day, obviously, like I said yesterday, we were in this little pennant, right? We broke down below the pennants. This is the thing I was sharing with my members about. It came back up on this candle right here, retested that, came back down, obviously rejected. So the breakdown was successful. And then we pretty much just bled throughout the day very slowly, right? Cool. Now, the way I look at it is this. This is obviously bearish. This is not a good sign. This to me tells me that the downtrend can potentially commence here and continue moving down even further. Now, if there is a place that the bulls still have a chance and still hope, it's this mid 240s region. This is what I was sharing with my members as well, right? As long as we hold pretty much about, we'll say 245, the bulls still have a chance. At the very least, in my opinion, to hold this and then move back up to retest this channel up here one more time, this trend line all the way up here one more time, which will bring us somewhere in the mid-ish 250s. That, in my opinion, is a possibility, potentially even this week, right? Maybe tomorrow, probably not tomorrow, probably maybe Friday, honestly. I can see it happening Friday. That's like the kind of last chance the bulls have, right, to break out of this trend line. Now, that doesn't mean it has to happen, but that is something that is a possibility. The way I look at it is, as long as Tesla is above 245, this, there's still a possibility at the very least not only to come up to retest this trend line and potentially even break it. Like this could be the bottom, right? There is a very real chance 245 is the bottom. Nobody knows for sure. I did enter a bullish position at 246 and some change, because the stop loss is just right under that, and the upside potential is, at least in my opinion, about 250-ish or 255, give or take, of course. Mid to low 250s, we'll say, right? I think it's a very nice little risk versus reward scenario. So that I did re-enter a position on Tesla, a bullish one. So as long as we hold 245, in my opinion, the bulls still have a chance. The bulls have a shot, right? But if we lose 245, then this is where things really start to fall apart. And I think the bears regain control even further. We at the very least come down to about the 230s. If not, we come back down pretty aggressively, potentially even to about the 220s. That's going to be the way I look at it right now. 245 is the next major point for the bulls to defend and the bears to take out to continue this move downwards. But the bulls want to defend that to save the stock here and potentially even make their way back up. At the very least, to retest this trend line, if not maybe even break it. That's not impossible here. So we'll see how it plays out, right? Nobody knows for sure if it's going to play out. Nobody knows where it's going to go next. But the way you determine it is with good risk management, or at least, good enough risk management. And playing the levels. Just let the levels dictate it for you, right? You break certain levels, well, that's how things happen. Kind of like this one here, right? When we were in this little bullish pennant over here, we broke down below the bullish pennant, came down a little bit lower, came right back up, retested the bullish pennant breakdown, successfully, clearly, and then we continue bleeding down even further. It's just that simple. You let the levels tell you the story, right? And that's kind of how I look at it in this scenario right now. 245, very important, and about 257, I guess we'll say, very important for tomorrow, for instance. So we'll see how that plays out. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now, moving forward. So that's probably the main thing. Now, keep in mind, there were a lot of calls that were coming in the other day, right? Remember I was mentioning yesterday how there was like a substantial amount of calls. Like, what was it, like 300 strike September, I think it was, right? A lot of calls came in. Today, Tesla's the highest, 11 million call flow as well. So, pretty decent. Almost a 2 million call here, 330 strike for November 15th. So the bulls are still stepping in, even though Tesla is, of course, drawing down, even though it's also holding up relatively well to the market, considering QQQ is down. Like QQQ being down 3% means that Tesla in theory should have been down closer to 6%, right? It clearly held up pretty well. So keep that in mind. Now the volume is, you can see here, slowly decreasing, right? We are slowly on the decreasing volume as we consolidate and get tighter, right? So a big move is coming. It's just a matter of, is it going to be up or down? Again, 245, I think is going to be down. Above 255 to 257, I think it'll be up. That's just the way I look at it. Otherwise, there's no reason to, guess. Just let the levels decide for you. And when one of those levels breaks, there's a damn good chance you're probably heading in that specific or in that respective direction. Now, what's another reason I say 245, right? Why is 245 another level that I am, that I think is important, I guess, to determine the direction, potentially moving down even further? Why that level, right? Well, let's talk about that quickly. So, as we made this initial move all the way back up, right, we kind of had massive rally. We started, consolidating, and we started getting tighter, right? We started making lower highs, higher lows, lower high, and we're still making a higher low here technically, right? We never actually breached this low. This low back here is at pretty much 245.5 roughly. So technically, as long as Tesla doesn't breach this, higher low that we did set on July 16th, right? Technically, we're still in this higher low, lower high consolidation, and we could potentially move up a little bit even higher, come up to about 255 and potentially set a lower high and continue consolidating like that as we kind of, go like, something like this, go up here, set a lower high, and potentially just consistently keep doing this until we eventually get a massive rip to the north or massive rip to the south, right? And again, you let the levels dictate it for you. At the moment, it's not looking too bad. It is technically, in a bullish setup, but it doesn't mean it has to play out in a bullish fashion. So that's kind of the main way I'll be looking at it moving forward. No reason to guess, no reason to bring out some crystal ball and try to predict the future, especially in the market. That's pretty much impossible. It's all about trying to understand these levels and trying to understand where you can potentially go next, right? And that's just the way I'll be looking at it personally moving forward. Now, we are potentially setting up what looks to be a potential hidden bullish divergence, right? Where essentially, as the RSI, you can see here, is essentially making lower lows, right? The stock on these respective, pivot points, if you will, on the RSI is making, well, higher lows, right? So you can see this point right here was a low. Let me go ahead and fix that, right? This right here was the point where this RSI did drop down here to about 66, right? And now we're at a smidge lower than that, right? We're about in the 65s, but it's on this candle here, which is obviously, a higher low. So lower lows here, but a higher low here on the candles. That's a hidden bullish divergence. It's not a very strong one. I'm not gonna lie. It could be a little bit better looking, but it is technically still there. So, there are still signs that are showing that, Tesla is still consolidating and it potentially may break out to the upside. But again, let the levels dictate it for you. And there's no reason to just try to guess and think you're smarter than the market, right? Now, for the bears, there are still some concerning signs. As I'm about to sneeze. I think a sneeze is coming up. Excuse me. The MACD is still bullish, but, it is starting to consolidate. It is starting to kind of converge back down, right? It's making lower highs over here, you can see. And, if the MACD ever crosses bearish, that will be pretty concerning. But the one thing that is concerning to me, at least, is the fact that the stochastic is still bearish. The stochastic is still bearish. We're still showing no momentum. There is still some work to be done here, to say the least, for the stochastic, as it's finally exiting this extremely oversold territory, like I said it would, because it was extremely oversold. Now, even though we're consolidating and kind of going sideways, the stochastic is still trending downwards, right? That's a little bit of a concerning sign. So, there is a potential that we do break this 245 and then we do come back down to 230s, potentially even 220s, right? That is still a very real possibility as we potentially play out this very, very large, massive bull flight that could look something like this, right? That that is still a possibility and something I am personally expecting. I will have my stop losses pretty much right under 245. I have sold calls against those shares as well, just in case. So if I do have to hit those stop losses and I do take a bit of an L on those shares, well, that stop loss, or sorry, those cover calls will be a bit in profit and it'll kind of offset it a little bit, the loss in shares. So that's kind of the main way I'm looking at it right now and pretty much what I am expecting right now. There are some pretty nice sold puts, 1.7 million here. You can see 200 strike for what is that? October 18th, I believe, right? So that's pretty decent. There was a bit more I saw down here, 1.3 million. You can see here, 252.5 sold put, right? You can see here, 726, which is this week, right? So someone's clearly bullish that, Tesla will close at or above 252.5. I can see it happening. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I said, wouldn't be surprised if we go up to 255. 255 roughly. Honestly, by this Friday, truly that wouldn't surprise me. We'll see. I have my cover calls pretty much sitting right around there, so I'll be happy to exit, take some profit on those shares, and reassess and see how the market and stock reacts to that. Pretty important level. So anyway, that's kind of how I'm seeing it right now moving forward. So as per usual, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the video, found it useful, helpful, informative, or any of that, definitely hit that like down below. You can see on the, by the way, the logarithmic chart, right? We're still technically retesting this downtrend, the multi-year downtrend so far with the breakout and coming back down to retest that. Obviously, there's still 2 more days to the week. A lot of things can still happen for better or for worse, but so far we're holding roughly where we need to on the logarithmic chart. So that's not a bad sign. But all in all, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.